Robert Plank Show, episode 293, Kindle Machine. Build a loyal fan base, drive traffic, and become a self-published author with Adam Houge. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the program. Our guest today is Adam Houge, and Adam is a #1 internationally best-selling author with over 2 million books distributed in the past 3 years. Adam is also a marketing expert who has launched multiple six-figure businesses. Sounds like lots of fun stuff. Adam, welcome to the show.
Hi, Robert. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
I'm super glad that you're here, and I had a chance to look at some of your books and stuff just for like a minute or two before on the show, and this is really cool because you have a lot of books on Amazon Kindle, and not only that, but it seems like everything out there you have is like very well like developed. Like there's like a professional cover for each one, there's an audiobook version, there's a bunch of customer reviews, so I'm excited to kind of jump in and hear about what you've built and hear about your process and stuff like that.
Sure. Well, over the past 3 years, what I've built is I'm actually a religious writer. Years ago, I had done itinerant preaching, which just means I travel around and share at various churches or where not. And I decided at one point in time, I ended up having a horrible health crisis where I had to retire from I was working at an industry job. And I had to retire at 27 because I had developed stress-related illness involving my heart. It got so bad, the doctors thought I had cancer. I was on 4 different heart pills, and it completely destroyed my finances. But at the same time, I saw the opportunity to continue going back into the things that I had loved to do. And so I took that opportunity to write a book that I had been working on for about 3 years. I heard about how people were succeeding with the Kindle platform. So I put my book out there, not really for money, but to get a message out there to my people and to share with them. And it didn't do very well. It made like $50 over the course of that first month. But I ended up striking a good chord with another book. And because of that second book, it got me really interested, and I continued going with it, and I ended up making 300 the next month. And long story short, about 8 months in, I had come to the conclusion that there needs to be something more specific. There has to be a way to be able to connect with my audience, to get my books more visible. Because no matter what you do, what you sell, even if it's whether it's books or not, or if it's a message you're trying to put out there, whatever it might be, if you can't get it in front of eyes, you can't get that out there. And if it's a product you're trying to sell, the more eyes that you get on it, the more you're going to sell. If it's a message, it's the same thing. So I tried to discern the best way to do that, and I started with trying to pull apart and to reverse engineer, kind of in my mind, how Amazon's algorithm would work and how it gives visibility. And as I began to understand the process and the concepts and take note of the various changes that they make and adapt with them, I was able to go from the month of September, so this is about 8 months in since I had self-published. I went from $1,800 to $14,000 in October, and I was making about $40,000 a month for several months in a row, all the way through December. And I continue to make 6 figures, but the market goes up, it comes down. And through that time, I learned that Amazon's algorithm changes, it adapts, and that you need to have specific strategies in place in order to be able to take advantage of the algorithm to gain the most visibility from it. And once I realized that, that's what really helped me to stabilize and settle my career.
Awesome, and there's so many good things to unpack in there just as we're getting started. I mean, #1, just that whole thing of like your health crisis. I mean, I think that pretty much everyone that has gone through that in one form or another. Hopefully most people don't have to go through what you did with like the heart thing and some really scary stuff and being on pills and all that, and the doctors thinking you had cancer. But I've definitely gone through that to a much smaller scale, and I think a lot of people have had sort of like either like a health scare or an unexpected life event, and kind of had those crossroads where they said, well, either I can just be like, do the easy thing and give up, or just kind of press on, or use this as the wake-up call to realize, okay, well, this was the push that I needed to kind of get into that, get in the right direction, get on the right kind of track, and then be able to look back and say, oh man, like at the time I thought that health scare was like the worst thing ever, but it sort of put me on this path to being better than if I just kept on coasting along. And I also like how your sort of mindset there, as far as, Amazon's platform is awesome because anyone can be on there, but then, some people try to cheat the system, or Amazon kind of rearranges things. And I think that you see a lot of people out there who they just complain, or they give up, or they say the system is rigged against me. And your attitude, it sounds like, is, well, Amazon is changing all the time, but usually these changes are for the better long term. They're giving us more opportunities, more kind of programs we can plug our brick into. So why not adapt instead of just kind of complaining about stuff?
Right, exactly. I mean, if I could just go from off of that, some people say to make lemonade from their lemons, but I believe in more than that. Turn your lemons into a lemonade stand, and turn your mess into a message and share that with others. It's an inspiration. And as you see others becoming inspired by what you've gone through, it inspires you to be able to step forward, to overcome, and to help others overcome as well.
Awesome. And so, I'm really curious about just your sort of your jump in income, and maybe like those first few books and those first few struggles, because it sounded like you said that first book was something that you have been working on for 3 years, and then it sounds sort of like the second and third and the other books happened a lot faster. So, I mean, what happened there? What changed?
Well, basically, I wasn't very serious about finishing the book. It was just something I had been working on. The one that took 3 years, I just was poking at it, adding a little bit here, doing a little bit of research there, and it just I was able to finish much of it just by sitting down and actually completing it. And why I was able to write others faster was because I was taking the time to because now I wasn't distracted by a job. I wasn't distracted by other things. I was able to sit down and actually have that opportunity to write and to spend my time writing. So I began writing immediately full time. If I was going to make a full-time job out of writing, it begins by writing full time. And so that's how I spent my time. I went from writing probably 100 words a day over 3 years to writing 1,000, 2,000. And as I began to become a better writer, I already knew the material and I knew it well, so that made it easy for me. And nonfiction for me, because I understand the material, is so much easier for me to write it. So I can write up to 5,000 words a day when I'm taking the time to write. And usually that takes me, it can take me about 6 hours, 7 hours. I've spent a few 10-hour days because I just wanted to get it out. I have written fiction books before as well, but that is a whole different animal where you really need to turn a phrase well. And as a result, for me, it can be hard to put out 2,000 words a day with that. And usually I'm fighting to get about 1,000.
Awesome, and I like how you're sort of explaining things in terms of like your output throughout the day, because you've probably come across people as well who like are so in love with like just the number of hours that they put into like a book, or how many times they've revised, or like how carefully they do things. And I like how your attitude is like, okay, I only have so many hours in a day. I've got to put out so many thousands of words consistently, so that way I can keep sort of pumping out these books. And so in order to sort of have that pace, or keep up that pace of, sometimes 5 or 6 hours in a day, or some days, 5,000 words, 10,000 words, is there a secret? Is it just a matter of like having a routine, or is there a way to kind of for people to pick up on that enthusiasm that you kind of have? I mean, I know you just said that you write about what you know, but how the heck do you write consistently, and how do you put in those hours consistently?
It all comes down to goal setting. The goal setting is what creates, not only the drive, because you have something tangible for you to complete, but it also helps you with being more structured during your day. So rather than structuring my day and starting to write and hoping for the best, without having a goal for you, a tangible goal for you to finish, you're going to be distracted by everything around you. There's so many distractions in life. There's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's, family's not a distraction, but when you're trying to work, it can definitely be a distractor from what you're trying to get done. So what I mean to say is, I would set a goal of, let's say I've got this book that I need to finish. I'm going to write in order to get it done within the time frame that I'd like to. I'd set a goal of when I would like it to at least be written. I would say I need to write 3,000 words a day, and I knew roughly how many hours it would take me from experience. Now, if you're first starting out, a better goal, if somebody is trying to write, for example, a better goal would be to set 1,000 words a day, because you might be working a job or you may have other things going on. You wouldn't be able to set aside the time that I have been able to. But if you have that goal, you will finish your book. If you don't have the goal, you won't. That's why it took me 3 years instead of finishing it so quickly. I didn't have a goal in mind. I just, my job was making the money. I had many other choices and distractions around me in life. And had I made that book sooner, I think I would have I would never would have gone through my health crisis, because much of what happened to me was stress due to both finances and especially my job, working 13.5-hour shifts. And now I realize, had I put those books out sooner, I would never have gone through that, because I've been living a more peaceful life, attaining and accomplishing the things that I was hoping to.
Awesome. It makes perfect sense. So it's like early before you were sort of aimless and didn't have those deadlines, and then just something as simple as having those deadlines and figuring out, well, the book needs to be this size, done by this date. I can work backwards and figure out what my pace can be. And so, I mean, when you say, I need to have a book that's, 10,000 words or something, how do you land on something like that? Like, what's sort of your process from going from, like, if you have, like, are coming up with ideas to like narrowing that idea to saying, here's the book? How do you sort of figure out that path there from saying, well, I don't know what to write, and to here's what the end result has to be?
Well, in reality, I don't have an end result for how many words it's going to be per se. I try to keep it to a certain size. So, for example, especially with nonfiction, it's easier to get a message across with a smaller book. If you have a large book that's 70,000 words long, it takes the person the entire time to read that book. And from experience, people read fiction books faster and more in depth than they do with nonfiction. It's because one is entertaining, it's creative, and the other one, they might have to read slower to gain the concepts and really mull them over and let them sink in. And as a result of that, it means that you're going to have a slower reading pace, so it could take them longer to get through your full length book. So one thing I like to do is I try to figure out, in as few words as possible, how can I describe this to somebody in a way that I can get the message across and very solidly, very definitely, so that they can walk away from this and say, wow, that was a nugget. That was good. And I'm glad that I got it. And so with that said, I might have a goal of about 20,000 words. If I make a few more than that or make a few less than that, it's all right. But if I see myself getting close and I've got, I'm doing 10 chapters and I'm 5 chapters in, I'm already writing 15,000 words, I know I need to start curbing what I'm doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it does. And so it sort of sounds like you sort of know yourself well enough where if the scope of the book ends up being too big, or if this project starts getting delayed more and more, you kind of catch yourself and course correct. Is that sort of along the right track? Absolutely.
And it's so easy for that to happen, because in anything that you do, in any project, you can nitpick the details. It's I'm trying to remember what it's called now. There's a particular theorem out there, or theory, where the amount of time that you allot for something, it fills up for the amount of time that you give for it. So basically,
Parkinson's law is the one.
That's Parkinson's. Right. I knew it started with a P, but I didn't want to use the wrong one. So Parkinson's law is exactly, that's what I bear in mind when I'm writing. Okay, if I give myself 3 years to write a book, it's going to take me 3 years to write a book, and that's exactly what happened. If I give myself 2 weeks to get my book written before sending it over to my editor, I mean, some people say, hey, the quality might, no. You can put up fantastic quality if you actually put your heart and your mind to it. You can give yourself those smaller time frames. The question is, though, do you really need it to be 50 or 100,000 words long? Could you shorten it up a bit and get that message across as easy as possible with as few words as possible? Because that's what's going to make it sink home. And when people can really can connect with your work, then they connect with you. And when they can connect with you, they're going to continue to come back to you again and again, because they like what you're saying. They like what you're doing. They like how you get the message across, and they're going to want to have more of that. And that helps you to build your brand.
Awesome. And it took me definitely a couple of years to learn that lesson, or to maybe, I guess, unlearn the thing about, when you're in high school or in college, then you get the assignment and they say, well, this has to be 5 pages long. You're like, oh, okay, so the more I write, the better. And it took me a few years to unlearn that, okay, well, I need to say the same stuff, but say in as few words or as few pages as possible. That way they'll finish one of my short books and they'll buy the rest, or like Amazon kind of has some of that stuff where they'll reward you if people read more pages and stuff like that. And so I totally get that. And you mentioned in there that you have like an editor, even though this is self-published on Amazon. So I mean, do you have like some sort of like a checklist or a process or a team just to make sure that all of these books, not only do they get done quickly, but also that they're consistently good? Do you have a process like that?
Yeah, when I first started, obviously I didn't have any money, so I would proofread it, and I'd have my wife help me edit it, and I'd edit it again. The first time, some of my books, I went with a fine-tooth comb over it 5 different times, literally 5 times, and stuff would fall through the cracks constantly. But when you don't have the money, if you're just starting out, you can't just wait until the world is right for you to get out there and do it. Just go out there and do it. And of course, it's not going to be perfect, but at least it's out there. And so that's what I did. And as I started making more money, I knew already that I've got a need for an editor. So I started looking for editors. I had a few people, and they didn't turn out as good. And then I found one guy. He had a crew of people, and it worked very well. So I began looking specifically for people with their masters who had an understanding, because when I was writing religion, they need to have an understanding of exactly what I'm saying, what I'm writing. You can't edit the material if you don't know the material. And so this guy, he did, his team did, and he was perfect for it. And so I have him do that. And I also have, when I do various fictional material, I've got another guy who does that. But I always make sure that they have a degree in English and experience as an editor. You'll find out there, if you're looking at Guru or Upwork or wherever it is nowadays, that people will say, I've got a degree, I've got a master's degree, and I've had this experience in editing. But if you look it up, I one time saw a guy who said that he has a master's degree and he had all this experience editing. I looked him up, found out where he claimed to be a curriculum instructor at what university, and I actually looked into him. And I found out that he had his master's degree in geology and that he was not a curriculum editor. He would give advice on curriculum, but it was completely different from what he put out there on his Upwork page. And all these people were buying from him left and right, just because they have a degree. And just because they've done editing doesn't make them qualified to be your editor. You deserve better than that. And so when it comes to someone like an editor, I look into them and make sure, because that's where it counts. Do they know the Chicago style of a review? Can they actually truly give you what you're looking for?
Awesome. I mean, that's really good advice, and especially this day and age where if anyone is serious about about their credentials and about getting work and stuff like that, they're probably on LinkedIn. So easy to check that resume, and then like you did, if they say that they have a degree from such and such, or they teach at such and such, easy enough to go and like check whatever webpage or whatever documentation to make sure that's true. And I've sort of experienced that kind of thing as well. Like I've in the past gone on Odesk and said, okay, well, can I pay you $300 or $500 to edit my book? And then they came back worse than I sent it over. Like it came back like all the don'ts were changed to do nots and stuff like that. It was like things were wordier. It was like in the opposite direction that I wanted to go in there. And so along the lines of an editor, I mean, how much can people expect to pay, and what sort of turnaround time, and what kind of things can they expect from an editor?
Well, it really depends on what your project or the scope of your project is. If you've got a smaller book, 10 to 20,000 words, that's going to be easy for them to turn around. Anything less than 10,000, first of all, I just want to put that out there. It may not necessarily do well on Amazon. It depends on what you're writing, but I'm not saying to write itty bitty little short works. You want to make sure that it's a complete work. And in some cases, something less than that will probably do well. But from experience in my genre, I like to write a little bit more lengthy than that to make sure that I'm getting the full message across. But anyway, so when it is a smaller work, though, 10,000, 20,000, or if you've got a short story going, you're going to see a real quick turnaround, just a few days. I've had a full-length novel, and I had an editor. He was able to do it, I think, in 1 to 2 weeks. He sat down, he did the whole thing. And the bit of it, though, is each person charges something a little different. Sometimes it's a half cent per word. Sometimes they charge, a cent per word. And if you've got a very long book, such as a 50,000 word book, that can really add up quickly. I've seen people spend $1,000 on editing, $1,500 on editing for a full length 100,000 word sci-fi book. And to me, that's still ridiculously high. I think that comes out to like a cent and a half per word. But yeah, usually I shoot for about a half cent a word for the people who are doing my editing.
Okay, cool. And then, so, and again, I totally understand that people like worried about like risking like a ton of money for like a huge book. So it makes sense to have, like you said, like not too short if you're kind of need to, and if it needs to be long enough to explain all the stuff. But if it's like this huge monster of a book, I mean, a lot of risk there for a book that might not do well. And so, I'm looking at your author page on Amazon, and there's like, I mean, tons of books. It says there's over 100 books. So, I mean, how sort of often do you put out these books? Is it once a week, once a month? I mean, what sort of pace do you have there?
Well, I don't write as often as I had used to. I had different goals at that time. I was trying to get a larger message out. And I was trying to understand better how I can get my platform to work. So I was writing all the time, and that had worked for me. But the problem was I started to get exhausted by that. I was writing, I was publishing, I was writing and publishing to keep my status quo of income and sales. But then I began to realize that there's other ways to drive traffic. I've already got a large platform. I've got over 100 books. So I was able to change that around, and I launch less frequently now. And I'm able to drive more traffic. I can use Facebook and other things to grow my email list, and then send these people over to my other books, relaunching the exact same books I've already written. There's the same title, everything. I just put it on promotion. So in the past, I was writing often, sometimes a book a week. I remember one month I went all out. I worked every single day of the month, and I think I did 5,000 words a day, and I wrote something effective like 8 books that month. So I was really, really churning them out at that time. But again, I understood the material, and it was part of something that I love. And if you don't love sitting down there doing what you're doing, it's going to drive you nuts. So the fact that I was passionate about it really, really added to that.
Awesome. And so, I mean, if someone was looking to kind of follow in your footsteps along the lines of, putting out some books and then running some of these Facebook ads and building lists and sending them that way, I mean, what do you suggest someone should do if they're starting from scratch? Should they make just like one book and then promote that, or should they do more along the lines of what you did and like release a bunch of books and then look to traffic? I mean, what's the best path there?
I actually would stop before we even discuss any of that and say, define your genre. I've seen people put out multiple books and hope they do well, and they're all targeting the same kind of person, but it's not actually defining the genre. You see, in order to have the greatest success, you need to define the exact target audience. And a target audience isn't defined by who you are targeting. So a male who is 35 with 3 kids, Instead, it's more, what is the interest that they have? Because whatever it is, whatever book you write, whatever product you put out there, it's all being put into an interest. So yeah, maybe the demographics might be that maybe you have a software as a service. So maybe your business is the businesses you're targeting, they might be interested in computer or this or that. And so that might work out well, understanding who they are and what they do, but the interest, why do they want that product? So why do they want this book? And then when you look at the bestseller lists, when you can understand the genre, that shows you the bestseller list you need to look at. You can see what topics are trending now. And then you can go and ask yourself, are these things that I can talk about? Do I have my own angle to speak about this? And you'll find that you do. And so then you can sit down, you can write about those topics, and that's where you can write multiple books, because now you have the definition there that you're looking for. You know what succeeds for others, and you can start putting some out there for yourself. But so I didn't do a run and gun or shotgun method here. I actually had a solid target that I was focusing on, and I knew it was succeeding. And when I understood that, then I started really churning it out. So in the beginning, I put out a couple books here and a couple books there. But when I saw some ideas were succeeding, that's what I began to really twist. And that's what you need to do as well. If you want to follow in those footsteps, you need to look for the ideas that are working. Don't build an entire series. If you're writing fiction, for example, don't build an entire series. If the first book hasn't succeeded, look for that idea that does succeed. Keep writing. And just keep writing, keep finding it. And then when you find it, when you find your angle, so to speak, then you'll know exactly what you can continue to put out there, and they're going to love it. And so that's what I did. And I did begin putting out a lot of different works. But part of that was also because I was experiencing a 30-day drop off on Amazon's algorithm. I put my book out there, I'd promote it, it would do really well, but then after 30 to 60 days, it would plummet to the bottom. And I couldn't understand why. And when I really honed in on that, I tuned into Amazon's algorithm and I could understand what is it that's causing my books to fall. Once I got that key, I was able to get them to stick for longer. One of my books has been a top bestseller for, I think it's been about 2 years now. It's outsold Heaven is for Real while they had their movie out there. It's outsold Lee Child and other people, and it's done it all purely on the algorithm. And I've had other books that have sat up really high as well, and some have gone and sat in the top 100, have sat in the top 500 for long periods of time before slowly falling down. And I let it trend down because then it allows me to focus on other works and other things, and I build book upon book. So once I've discovered that, how I can drive more traffic and keep the visibility, then I began having a lot more free time. And that's why in more recent, I've been spending more time building other businesses to help support what I love to do with my books.
Cool. So it sounds like sort of like a very, like we said, like entrepreneurial and kind of scientific process where instead of just saying, well, I'm just going to make a bunch of stuff and see where it sticks, it sounds like you're course correcting based on what's the most popular, like you said, looking at the bestseller list, putting something out and making something more like it, and identifying like who the book is for, not just age and gender and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm looking at some of your books, like there's, like books on specific prayers or habits or Bible memorization or, different, or like the bad voice of the Bible or like different things, like different, like targeting kind of specific things. So, I mean, makes perfect sense as opposed to, I've seen some of these authors, just every week choose a totally different thing, right? One week talk about nail biting, the next week talk about poker, the next week make a science fiction thing, and I'm thinking, well, they're kind of like having to start over in all these areas as opposed to what you did, where you kind of went in one direction and built up that audience, and the audience likes a bunch of other stuff. And so we're starting to go kind of over time here, but I'm really curious looking at all your books. Like you said, you figured out Amazon's algorithm, and I'm seeing your books, and there's just like a ton of reviews on a lot of these. And so, sort of, what's the secret there? Is this a matter of sending in your own traffic, or how did you get these books built up and ranking and selling and all that stuff?
Yeah, well, that's a whole other story for another day. So just kind of in a nutshell, it all comes down to traffic and conversions. First of all, you need to understand, before you send traffic to your sales page, you need to understand what will convert that traffic. Otherwise, that's just traffic wasted. So before I explain it, if you convert at 1%, you send 100,000 people, you convert at 1%, that means that you're going to sell 1,000 books. And that's great. You sell 1,000 books in a week, that book's going to rank really well. It's going to do really well. But if you just change a couple factors to your book and suddenly it starts selling at, only 4%, just a little bit more with that extra traffic, that 100,000, those 4,000 sales, I'm telling you right now, if you're wide, you're going to be on the USA Today because the algorithm will take you the rest of the way. So that's the difference between being successful and then being very successful. And so I always like to hone in and focus first, like I said, on my genre, on my target market, so that I can build my audience. You want to be able to have somebody who you can connect with, come back to, and sell to. Otherwise, if you're too unfocused, then you're going to find that your efforts are not going to do well. You're not going to hit the target if you don't have a target to aim for. And that's where a target market comes in. And then from that point, what you want to do, those various conversion factors, make sure you got a good cover and that is speaking true to your audience. Make sure you've got an epic description. Your description should not just talk about your book, should hook the reader, should really grab them in such a way that they want to buy that book because it speaks to them. And the better the description is, I spend sometimes a whole day writing a description, 2 little paragraphs, because it's that important. I write 5,000 words a day for everything else, but when it comes to my 250 word description, I write 250 words a day, or over several hours for that description. And that should tell you how important it is. For myself, when I did not focus on that, when I just put a description out there and didn't really put a lot of work into it, my sales suffered. It really shows when you're taking the time to polish those things or not. And as far as the reviews go, as you build your audience, those reviews can come more naturally. You can actually just send something to your email list after a promotion. Say, hey, did you grab this book when I sent it out? How'd you guys like it? Would you mind leaving a review on Amazon? And I've had tons of people just dive on board with that. And So that's why some of my books have a lot of reviews. They've been out there for a while, they've been ranked well. But then also you want to make sure you've got some good when you understand your target market, then you can know exactly what they're going to be typing in for keywords for the search engine and what kind of categories. Those categories need to be targeted as well to your genre. When you put all that kind of together and you have a really good launch, then everything works together for a very solid book campaign.
Awesome, and like you said, we can't go too deep on things because we're just about out of time. But I mean, all this makes perfect sense. I mean, like have a good cover, have a description, spend a little bit more time in it than you think you need to, because that book description page is kind of like your sales letter. Who cares how good the book is if they aren't even convinced to buy it? They're not going to know how good that book is. And I appreciate sort of how simple you're making things here, where you say, all right, well, here's my target market. I can figure out what they want, what they're searching for, the keywords, the categories, maybe even look at some sort of similar books that are kind of in my space, and I can figure out, okay, well, what are some new keywords and categories to try, and kind of adjust from there, and and keep it simple, and just build up that list and say, hey list, here's the book, can you buy it, can you leave a review, just follow up, lots of good stuff. I mean it seems pretty simple and straightforward. So I want to make sure that everyone knows everything there is to know about Mr. Adam Houge. So if everyone's listening to today's program and they're hearing about what you've accomplished and your thought process and all that stuff, where should they go to find out more about what you're up to?
Sure. I have a free video series that I have where I teach others how they can launch bestsellers. They can connect with me right there, and I'm happy to help them, with whatever questions they might have for their books or any promotions they might be doing. That's at thefanbaseformula.com.
Cool. Thefanbaseformula.com. And is that the only place?
I have other places. As far as my religious titles go, that's at adamhouge.org or adamhouge.com, the same thing. And those are the best places to connect with me.
Perfect. So if you're curious about what kind of books Adam has put out, then go to adamhouge.org or .com, and to make sure that we have it spelled right, that's ADAMHOUGE.com. That's adamhouge.com. And then to check out that free video series on how to make a bestseller, go to thefanbaseformula.com. So lots of good stuff. I had fun. I hope you did too, Adam. I hope everyone else listening had fun as well. So thanks for stopping by the show today and sharing what you had to share with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Please subscribe, rate, and review our show at robertplank.com/iTunes, and like us on Facebook at robertplankshow.com.